Hey friends, and welcome to our YouTube page. My name is Josh Canning of Evangelize.org, an online membership site for the committed missionary disciple. There we provide tools, empowerment, and community for Catholics who want to change the world. Today I'm excited to share a clip from my interview with Tim Glemkowski. Tim is a Catholic speaker and the founder of L'Alto Catholic Institute. We're going to be talking about parish renewal, and I think you're going to find a lot of value in our conversation. I'll see you on the other side.
Tim, so many questions I can ask you, but speaking on the topic of, in a way, almost over-communicating the discipleship path to people, it makes me think of, like I'm a member of some of these membership sites where you can kind of see this almost thermometer or path where you're kind of making this progress, and that's apparently a really important psychological thing to know you're actually progressing somewhere, but you often don't see that in a parish. So the person who goes every Sunday and the person who shows up once in a while and the person who's daily mass goer and whatever, and wherever they are in terms of their prayer life or whatever, they might feel they're all equally members of the parish. It's interesting, this kind of idea to show people this is the journey we want you to go on. This is sort of this discipleship thing. This is how we want you to really commit and grow in your relationship with Christ as a member of this parish. In your working with parishes so far, how have you seen those parishes do that well and over-communicate that well? What are some good examples of that visualized discipleship pathway that you can think of? I know St. Benedict's in Halifax, they have the game plan, and it's kind of this arch you can kind of see visualized. Do you have another example that we might direct our members to?
Yeah, Prince of Peace in Flowery Branch, Georgia, is a parish that they call it the Way. Yeah. And I think they're part of the Divine Renovation Network, so I think they're pulling a lot of their identity. It looks similar to even the game plan. Yeah. They're one that's communicated that really well. To be honest with you, a lot of the best ones, the best visualized ones are Protestant churches. Okay. So that's like there's the church at Springfield in Tennessee. I know. And so that's some of that idea for us is actually there's a text called Simple Church by Tom Rainer is his name. Yeah. And he is the one that had done the study of all these churches and said, what are the healthiest churches? Is it just the ones that have, almost like looking at the externals and then realize no, the healthiest churches were the ones where this clear path to discipleship was built into parish life. And he gives a really great way of explaining how to simplify your efforts and focus on the discipleship pathway. And so some of the people that have picked up his methodologies, I think, have some really nice graphics that kind of display. The church at Spring Hill in Tennessee, outside of Nashville, has a really nice one that I've used sometimes too. So those would be two I would direct people to.
Very cool. When you begin this process in a parish, which already is going to have a culture, for good or for bad, do you encounter resistance?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And to me, that's always like that insider resistance is always going to be one of the significant challenges. I do think beginning with vision helps to alleviate some of that. Like if you tell people why you're making changes, it does help them to, there's that Simon Sinek work, right? Start with why. And I do think really building in that strong sense of a why. There was this in Ann Arbor, we were just in Ann Arbor, Michigan recently for an early Christmas visit with my wife's parents, and I needed a place to work in the mornings, and my wife we needed a place to bring our daughter to kind of run around, and there was this Protestant church there that had a community center, and it was this kind of massive project, and it really existed for the community. They had built their facilities instead of building a church that had a playground on it. It really was a community center that had their auditorium for their services in the back.
Wow.
And it was this really interesting vision for and so I asked the pastor when I met him there, what is this all about? And he said that they had been meeting in their a hotel ballroom for 10 years, their community, and they had always had this identity of that mission existing for their community was built into them. So when they built their facilities, it made sense to them to really orient it outward, even their facilities, instead of just toward their community. But he said that was a very tough sell because you're doing a millions of dollars capital campaign, and people don't necessarily want to give something that's for somebody else. It's they want to build the testament to their community. But he said, so what they did is they just talked for a year about their parish existing for their neighbors, and then it didn't ask for a single dollar. And at the end of that year, they started asking for money, and they had $9 million raised in And I think that's some of it. Overcoming that resistance is just helping people to see the vista with you, to like see the why. And then I do think, like, one of the things I heard one of our point people at one of the parishes working with right now say the other day is at some point she just had to like admit and that like the ideal that Jesus presents us for parish life is more important than like a vocal minority that might not be, you know, the old money in a parish that might not be content with the direction things are going, and that as like if we're going to adopt leadership. So she was saying this to a group. We were talking to a group of people about our project. She was saying, and that she just at some point had to like accept that people were going to be upset and they weren't going to understand, and hopefully they would at some point. But like almost this idea that like the train's going. You know what I mean? Like the train has to leave the station. We can't just keep getting blocked by our own fear of people not liking us or being upset with us or not agreeing with our vision. Like they just have to kind of get on, you know. And not that we don't want anyone to leave. We don't want anyone to go anywhere. But train's got to move. Train's got to move. It's just got to move. And so. We just have to have kind of almost like the leadership chutzpah in order to help bring people as much as possible, communicate the vision. Because I don't like the idea that we just need to like change things and people need to accept us or get out. You know what I mean? Like, like loving people. Like when we presented this vision at one of our parishes, a couple couples actually came to me after and like were pretty upset with me because they had heard about this initiative and they weren't pleased with the church doing this and stuff. And I really in that moment was just as much as possible just trying to love them as persons, like not even at that moment just fight for my ideals, but just like encounter them. And now one of those couples has been like they're leading a discipleship group, you know, like because we kind of come full circle with them. And so there you know there are those small successes, but certainly resistance for sure, no doubt.
This is a question I love to ask a lot of our guests, but what's something that you wish everybody knew about evangelization?
I hope you enjoyed that clip from my conversation with Tim Glemkowski. For the full version and for many other resources to support you in your missionary efforts, check out evangelize.org and consider being a member today.